ADHD was a bit of a buzzword, and you might say, oh yeah, I'm a bit ADHD.
What is life like working with it now you have the diagnosis?
I don't know how I got an employment and maintained employment. I think one of the reasons why a lot of people don't speak to employers is firstly, lots of organisations will be like, oh yeah, we're championing like neurodiversity, etc. But actually, what does it look like in your policies?
I think it's so interesting what you say about interviews.
Someone in a wheelchair basically saying, do you know what, you're failing this assessment because the assessment was for you to climb up these stairs basically. If you are going to thrive in this industry, you have to be.
Welcome to Montresor Legal's podcast. I'm Francesca Milton. I'm a director at Montresor Legal. I'm here with David Ekong and we are talking all things ADHD today.
Hello, how you doing?
Hi, I'm good, you?
Not too bad.
Good.
Not too bad. So yeah, my name's David Ekong and I've got ADHD.
So we actually came to start talking because David, you put something on LinkedIn about having ADHD and yeah, I messaged you and said, do you want to talk more about this?
Yeah. So essentially, that was how the post started actually. I actually said my name's David and I've got ADHD, and it was like a long brain dump of my thoughts post-diagnosis in June this year, so about 5 months ago or so. And yeah, I just thought, you know what, I'm going to share with my connections, professional connections, how I got to where I got to, and how I feel about it. So yeah, I thought it was important to share, discuss, educate.
Yeah, it's actually been so interesting just talking to you and getting to know a bit more about it over the last few weeks. And I think it's nice to share that with everyone else because, as you said to me, there's a lot of myths and people aren't very educated on this subject. So yeah, what's it been like for you? Yeah,
interesting. It's funny enough, I was speaking to a friend of mine, my name's like 14, 15. He's a professional, he's doing really well in his career, and he messaged me a few days ago asking about he feels like he might have ADHD but he's not sure how to go about investigating. So for me it's been quite interesting because it's been like a wave of plethora of emotions. So relief, frustration, annoyance, confusion, I think some self-doubt as well, like is it really, like, I've really got ADHD or just making it up, etc. So it's been a journey, but and ongoing, but ultimately it's been quite, I think the biggest thing has been relief and almost validation, because I think, so one of the things I wrote on the post on LinkedIn, summarised like my experiences, like from like primary school, secondary school, like I got excluded multiple times in secondary school, say multiple times each year in secondary school, from my year 7, year 8, year 9, twice in year 11, excluded from school. And you look at the stats and you find that 40% of individuals, children with ADHD, get excluded from school, 10% get permanent exclusions from school. My older sister, she worked in a pupil referral unit in Manchester for a while. It's every single child in that unit, so it's been excluded from major medication, has ADHD. So it's just interesting. And then I spoke about like challenges at university, obviously studying law, masters in international law, and some of the struggles with like focus, being distracted, and people can think that it's an intelligent thing or intellect thing when obviously it's just not. It's I think having a diagnosis is quite validating, but then, as I said, I was quite angry for a bit actually. I was thinking, do you know what, I had to struggle with lots and lots of things, like through education, studying, etc., and not knowing why, even though I'm quite clearly not stupid, my grades are evidence of that, but still really struggling to like focus, or like writing an essay, checking it loads of times and still finding like tiny little mistakes and things. So yeah, I think there was lots of emotions, but I think the biggest one I'd say was relief, validation, but also, as I said, quite a high degree of frustration and annoyance. And but I think it's important to know. And obviously it's a journey, as I said, it's still quite recent, like five months or so in. So yeah,
5 months since you were diagnosed?
Yeah, so I guess how I got there. So in my family, so growing up, ADHD was a bit of a buzzword, And I think people generally associated with it with young boys that couldn't sit still, irritable, and that was basically it, to be honest. But in my family, I've got 9 first cousins, and 5 of which have got ADHD, have been diagnosed with ADHD, so it's quite prevalent in my family. It's quite, imagine there's other individuals that haven't been diagnosed in my immediate family that have got ADHD just by the behaviours and traits they present. But 5 diagnoses. So when I joined my current firm last year, August, an email went round about like a post, a lawyer, Jodie Hill, absolute hero, was going to do a lunch and learn about ADHD. She's got ADHD, speaking about diagnosis, what it looks like. I've got no idea like why I even said, do you know what, I'd attend, but I thought it was virtual. It's over lunch, so I joined for like 15 minutes or so. As I said, ADHD is prevalent in my family. You'd be interested to know what it looks like. And so she started speaking about her background, etc. And then she started speaking about like how it affects her, and genuinely it was like almost every single thing she said. I was like, this is literally describing my every single day, but I was like, whatever. Anyway, I couldn't actually finish the podcast because I had to go and do something else, but I got like halfway through, and then I was thinking about it afterwards. And then I thought, you know what, I'm just going to reach out to my GP, my doctor, and just think, and had a conversation saying, do you know what, I feel like I present like a lot of the like traits of individuals like with ADHD, and she taught me through some stuff. And she basically said, based on what you've said, I think it's likely you do have ADHD, but obviously she's not a specialist, a psychiatrist, etc. So she said you obviously need to go and get an official diagnosis. So I went online and did like, I think 15, maybe more different, definitely more different online ADHD tests. Most of which are there's quite like a specific criteria, like identifying like ADHD, etc. And obviously they vary, the tests vary, but I did loads, and every single one of them was saying, there's a high likelihood you've got ADHD. So I thought, okay. And then so what next? I spoke to my work about doing basically getting a diagnosis. Obviously I've got private healthcare. It wasn't covered under my private healthcare at that point in time, so I had to decide, okay, do I go and do it private, which is very expensive, or get on the NHS waiting list, which is I think currently between 8 and 10 years for a diagnosis.
8 to 10 years?
Yeah, completely ridiculous. And wow. So I decided to go private. Fast forward, had the interview. It was I think a few hours interview. They asked you questions about like you to get information like from your parents, etc., about your childhood, things you remember from your childhood, like about interactions like with other individuals, memory, sensitivity, like sensory sensitivity, lots of different things. And at the end of the thing, the clinician who did the interview, psychiatrist, was like, just by interacting with you like in the first 10 minutes, and obviously you have to continue the interview, she's like, I could have told you immediately that you've got ADHD, just based on like the interactions. And like currently I'm sitting quite with my hands together, but I fidget quite a lot. Like I need like fidget spinners and things.
But you actually have them and use them?
Yeah. Like fidget spinners, I literally like one. Like I've got one. It's one of my favorite. It's one of my favorite things. My son's taking it from me, but it's mine. But
You've taken it from your son.
Yeah. But it's one of my favorite things, just to help him. And even like making eye contact, very again or difficulty making eye contact is a very common thing with people with ADHD. Lots of things like being quite sensory sensitive. So for example, these lights are really difficult. Like noise, little like tapping sounds and things, just being really so many different things that make, I think, working in the corporate space, where very often it's open plan, very bright. Obviously one of my main offices in Canary Wharf, and it's open plan, it's really bright in the offices, so things like that can be very, very difficult. But as I said, because there's such ignorance, people don't understand and recognise that these things are actually traits of ADHD, and that can make normal things very challenging.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I can imagine. What is life like working with it now you have the diagnosis? What's changed? How do you feel things are better? Or are they better yet?
I'd say practically, I'm quite fortunate in the sense of HR at my firm have been excellent in the sense of, to be fair, I've been quite open about things and like challenges, and they've been really, really quite proactive in trying to implement like adjustments and things. For example, they said the office I work in is a really, really bright office. It's open plan. Like the tiniest noises and stuff I find quite distracting. So I don't go anywhere without my noise cancelling headphones and stuff, and just be able to focus. So they actually got me like new noise cancelling headphones for to use in the workplace. They've arranged in the office that I work in, what's still in progress, like a separate working office that I can work in, that's set up, that's like quieter, it's not as bright, and it's closed off as a single person office, so not being an open plan thing. So that stuff I believe, and I'm going to begin to see benefits of. But there are other things, as I said, like that you can't, I think can't control. For example, I work in a team, collaborating in a team, like I think like in person, I think is important to an extent. But then that means being in an environment, as I said, like open plan, working with people where I find it quite distracting, hearing other people's conversations, phone conversations, like the bright little like tapping the slice things, like really annoy me. And I know it's not frustrating for. It's not an unreasonable thing for someone to be tapping or someone to be scratching or eating an apple or eating a crisp packet or stuff like that. But it's just really for me massively frustrating and distracting, and it just means that so getting that balance between is quite challenging. So I think I've definitely seen benefits. I'd say the biggest benefit is obviously I started medication for ADHD. I think it's one of the most common ones called Elvance, and it was I said to a colleague and a friend. I actually said to my friend yesterday, I don't know how I got an employment and maintained employment prior to having the medication, which helps like with the focus, lack of distraction.
How long have you been at your firm?
So I joined my current firm in August last year, so it's been about just over a year and a bit.
Oh, okay.
But obviously I've been working in the industry, which is obviously how myself and Fran met since 2012, 2013. So
just a few years.
Yeah, just a few. So it's been so it's been really interesting. I think seeing the difference in the past couple of months, having taken the medication. Obviously, my medication's been changed because it's been recently widely reported a national shortage of ADHD medication, which again is been a challenge for many people. So, but yeah.
What is happening with that? Do you
know? There's like a quite a popular like ADHD like content creator named Leanne Maskell. She like wrote a book called ADHD Works. She started working on a model and stuff, and she's been quite a vocal ADHD champion. I attended a call with her and I think the CEO of one of the large private ADHD assessment organisation companies called ADHD 360, who's actually who I got my assessment with, who have been absolutely excellent, and it's basically just speaking about people asking what's going on like with the shortage, and essentially things to do with like an issue at one of the main production centres, etc. And it's just a bit, and they keep saying it's going to be better towards the end of the year, but massively people are being massively affected. The medication that I was taking is really effective. It's just not available anywhere in London and so lots of people really struggling, so having to change their medication, people speaking about having to ration their medication, and I'm quite fortunate in the sense that I was able to get on another medication which I had some negative reactions to, but is marginally helpful, but it's just I think some of the issues that are currently going on with the whole ADHD diagnosis and I think all it like overall, as I said, I don't know how I stayed in employment, how I worked, and how I was effective. I wouldn't say that I was effective prior to the medication, because I think
How do you think the ADHD directly affected like your day-to-day like job? Like did it affect your job?
Oh, massively, yeah. Like sitting, obviously I said I work in an industry that attention to detail is imperative, and I pride myself on attention to detail. I love writing. I'm pretty good at writing, but like literally writing emails and looking back at the email afterwards, and before you send or you send it, and you see like the tiny typo, a tiny little thing here and there, or and again I work in an industry where little mistakes can cost clients lots of money, in some cases millions of pounds. So lots of things, and I said working in open plan offices and being required to be in populated like places where I'm not in control of the sound, that's all the lighting of somewhere, or when things are due, like it's just really obviously tight deadlines and things, and I think I think having that experience for, and it just being expected as the norm, like if you are going to thrive in this environment, in this industry, you have to be I guess effective in this requirement of, as I said, that you come in, you interact, you work with individuals, even before like pre-COVID, going into work 5 days in a week and being in the office with like an open plan office with lots and lots of different people, and and I think never really understanding why, I don't know, I just really just getting annoyed or so, or like with little things, and I think that education and understanding it's helpful, because it means actually I can recognise, okay, they're being unreasonable, or actually I need to basically take myself out, or for example not being able to sit like in a place, like I used to have to get up from my seat like every 20 minutes at least, like and go and do something else, or on the flip side I'd be sat and I wouldn't, like very often, I very rarely have breakfast or lunch, and I'll look up from my desk and it'll be like 2-3 in the afternoon, and I've literally not moved from what I was doing, and I wouldn't even have realised. So I think, just the extremes, and as I say, understanding that actually it's not just, oh my word, I'm irritable all the time, I'm really fidgety, I can't sit still. It's just, so I think that education, and I think gradual dispelling of misinformation, ignorance, for me, even me personally, has been quite, it's been life-changing, to be honest. So
yeah. Have you had, like, how much reaction and response did you have from your LinkedIn post? Was there anything negative? Has it all been really positive?
Yeah, no, it's been, so to be honest, I was, I'm one that I've mentioned to you previously. How do I say this? I'm quite indifferent to what people think about me, basically. So, like, so I know lots of people, I spoke to lots of people, especially working in the industry that I work in, and with the ignorance surrounding ADHD, and people thinking, if you've got ADHD, that means, I don't know, like you're slow, or like you're non-intelligent, or you're going to make loads of mistakes on this stuff for X, Y, Z.
Yeah.
So people and so I had lots of people message me personally. Obviously, I've got lots of friends in the legal industry, people I went to school with, people I went to university with, basically saying, I've got X, Y, Z, but I've never told my employer because I was scared about how they'd view me, or another individuals saying, they've had similar experiences, but they've never like known. So it's been generally, it's been overwhelmingly positive. People just saying, it's really brave and really thing. And for me, like, it's not really about bravery. It's just about, as I said, like, my LinkedIn is my platform. I'm in control of basically what I share about things. It's not really about bravery. It's just something else about myself. The same way I put on my CV, I did a law degree, I did a master's. Like, it's just like another thing, like, about myself. So I think it's important to educate, because, as I said, lots of people, as I said, dispelling, I think ignorance is one of the biggest things, because there's so much information, but in that there's so much ignorance. Like, and I think one of the biggest things for me is to educate, and for individuals to educate themselves, because, as I say, like, it's not just, as I say, little boys that have got that irritable or can't sit still, and you might say, I found a bit ADHD. and it's just one of the stupidest things people can say, because you might be, but actually it's not just, I'm a bit irritable at work, I can't sit at my seat, I found I've got ADHD. Actually understanding that, and which is why in the diagnosis process they ask you to speak to your parents, they speak to your parents, family members, they ask you about your child, they ask about every single aspect of your life, because if you've got ADHD, it affects every single aspect of your life. It's not like, I'm a bit ADHD at work, and then like, no, like, there is evidence of it in obviously various ways. It affects people in different ways. There's I think the main strands of ADHD to look for is impulsivity, inattentiveness, and impulsivity, inattentiveness, and hyperactivity. And
which ones do you have?
So at the my diagnosis, the lady said she feels like I present all three. Oh. which makes sense, all or nothing kind of guy, which is and so I think it's and as I said, it affects and if you think about and discuss it, and I said, like, thinking back, like, it makes, when I was young, my mum always used to say, you got ants in your pants, or like silly things like I'd like in the class. I loved school. I did well at school academically. Well, given restrictions.
Yeah.
Like with the time I spent in the classroom, I did well, and the teachers always used to say, "Oh, it's not his behaviour. Like in the classroom, he's fine." The thing is, like other stuff. Say like when I've got so when I don't have structure, basically, and even now, like I have to have structure. Like I write myself like notes and like guides and but then on the flip side, following like that structure and things like it's quite, for example, planners and stuff and things really. So yeah, it's a massive I don't know, mess of seemingly contradictions, but as I said, just like navigating that and trying to understand like myself and see how I can best like support myself and people around me support me. I think it's been my main the main thing that I've been well, it's the main, I think, goal now, purpose.
Yeah.
It's the information, what I'm going to do with it, essentially.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
You said you wanted to talk a bit more about Jodie Hill and the influence she's had.
Oh yeah. No, she's really cool. Jodie Hill was really really cool because.
Who is she?
She's a lawyer. She founded a law firm called Thrive Law. They're based in Leeds, and they're really like breaking the molds of what's expected, I think, of law firms. Very very like structured, very very corporate and quote unquote professional, and she's really taken an approach that actually, well, in the name Thrive Law, she wants people to be able to basically thrive, be their best selves, and I think that's when you get the best work, and I think it's incredible. And so I knew of her previously, but yeah, as I said, just hearing her speak, it was great because it was really honest. And for me, like I hate gimmick, hate tokenism, I hate things for the sake of it. Like it literally makes me sick. Like it's one of the things I hate the most. To just be straight up. And she was really really honest. I think maybe I went to university in Hull in Yorkshire, and she's northern, and I think it's maybe a northern quality. Very matter of fact, quite straight to the end. She was very very honest. She was herself, and obviously there were hundreds of people obviously from my firm, like city lawyers and thing. And yeah, there was obviously she's a lawyer herself, but yeah, I just liked how honest she was about how it affects her on a day to day.
Yeah.
And which is, I think that's part of why I wanted to share as well, because I thought had I not attended that lunch and learn, I might have not got a diagnosis ever, or maybe I would have done 3 or 4 or 5 or 10 years, so who knows. So I think actually just if one person, as I said, I've had a number of people message me saying, you know, I think I might have ADHD, how would you advise going about investigating that further, looking to get a diagnosis. And if one more person like manages to actually get a diagnosis and continues and shares with people, maybe someone else gets a diagnosis. It's not getting a diagnosis for the sake of it, but actually it's about improving your quality of life and putting you in a better position to thrive, and actually to better understand yourself and give yourself like some grace. Like one of my colleagues I work with, she got diagnosed I think about a month before me, and we were just chatting the other week, and basically just saying about, I was just telling her, just give yourself grace, like, because like she's been really struggling like with things, and I think so recognising that it is a real daily struggle, like some of the tiniest things, like people like you wouldn't even think about, like are like a struggle, or like are distracting, or just make your day make it say like so much more difficult and challenging before you even like started your day. And then so I think one of the biggest things is educating, so you can actually say, oh, okay, I'm not just lazy, or I'm not just like stupid, or I'm not just, I don't know, easily irritable, or overly sensitive. There is actually something that is contributing to my that's out of my control, contributing to my being like this, and it's fine. And I think so I think that's one of the biggest things. So that's what I just wanted to share, and and that's one of my goals, I think.
I think that there is more. It's being spoken about more. I've definitely noticed it in the last, I don't know, maybe year or two. Do you think? And I know you're on a panel.
Oh yeah. So the Legal Neurodiversity Network, wonderful organisation. There's a panel discussion. I'm going to be one of the panellists. It's on the 7th of December, hosted by Stevenson Harvard, and just going to be talking about ADHD in the legal industry, how it's affected us, etc. Kind of things we can do to continue to educate, and make the legal industry more conducive and to people that have got ADHD. And so yeah, it's going to be interesting. I think for me, education is a massive key, because there's so many things that I think if you understand, especially for like employees and etc., you can better, like even recruitment processes and things. And someone was speaking about like interviews and length of interviews, etc. And like for me, I'm, as I said, I fiddle, I doodle, and thinking, if you're having a conversation with someone and they're writing things down, or they're not making eye contact with you, like understanding that actually it's not because that person is not professional, or that person is not interested or distracted. Actually, for them, like making eye contact is difficult and uncomfortable, and I think actually understanding that and saying, no, you know, I'm not going to give that person the thing because they looked disinterested, they were looking elsewhere the whole time, like someone else is being negatively impacted or having unfairly. That's like saying, I'm not going to give you the job because you've got brown hair. Basically, something that's completely out of control, and something that is and so I think actually, which is why especially I think within the legal industry, education is so key, because there's already, I think, lots of barriers to individuals from various demographics, I think, progressing like in the industry. So I think education is, and not just doing, it's like I was saying, I do feel like there's been a lot more discussion and chat around ADHD in the last year or so, but it's like I was saying previously, I hate like gimmick and tokenism, and I think that lots of things are, like lots of organisations have been like, we're championing neurodiversity, etc., and getting clicks, but actually what does it look like in your policies? Like, do you still expect every single person, regardless of thing, to come in the office and work on X amount of days in a week, or to work in the same environment as X? Are you still giving instructions to individuals like in the same way, whereas someone with ADHD would benefit a lot more from having set out instructions with X amount of points that are clear that they can refer to, rather than, I'm going to give verbal instructions to everyone and expect everyone to produce the same output. So I think, like for me, I care less about saying, literally we did like a panel discussion with people, we spoke about ADHD and we did a few posts and then that's it. But actually, like, are you, and this is one of the things I've been raising like with my organisation currently about and conversations moving like in the right direction, which is good, about actually you'll pay for me to have physio indefinitely, but you won't pay for me to get a private ADHD diagnosis or pay for private ADHD medical treatment. And it's not because you've intentionally done that, it's just because you've not thought about that. So actually having that conversation, educating and saying, actually, we want to make our policies match what we're saying on the social media platforms. So that's what I more care about.
So do you think you'll continue, after doing this panel in December, continue trying to raise awareness? Is that important to you now?
It is, yeah. But as I say, like for me, lots of things will be just like what I post for, obviously. So for example, Black History Month has just passed, and it's obviously something, EDI is something that is massively important to me. I've posted like a lot about that on my LinkedIn, so I think I'll continue to be using my LinkedIn platform to post. I was saying to me and my mum had this conversation, I don't feel like called to be like a crusader going around, be like, blah blah. I think there are people that are doing that and they're great at that. For me personally, I'll post like what I feel to post. Like, so I feel like if something, like I'll get involved in a panel. The reason I got involved in this legal neurodiversity network panel discussion is because I know one of the guys, like James, who like involved in it. He's just one of the best people ever. Like, he's just so honest, and and I think so I'll just do like, but if I feel like called to do something or post something, I'll do that. And I feel like, because then I feel like it's organic, it's not forced, it's not doing things like for the sake of it, and for me it's not effort. Like writing that post, it was quite, that I wrote about when I was diagnosed with ADHD. It's quite a long post, but it was no effort because of me just writing like what I thought and what I wanted to write, and I wrote it, and I was like, great. I said, if I get like 0 likes, I couldn't care less, because again, I didn't write for anyone. I wrote because that's what I felt like writing. And likewise with this like discussion, this podcast, with the panel discussion, I will only do like what I feel like personally. So obviously education is important to me, but as I said, I don't like doing things like for the sake of it. So I'm going to go out saying, you must educate every single person. So I'm going to go around and I'm going to try and attend, I'm going to try and speak on X amount of podcasts or be X. I just think that's disingenuous.
Yeah, fair enough. I think it's so interesting what you say about interviews. I really find that so interesting, because you're absolutely right. Of course, in an interview situation, and obviously I do recruitment, and all the candidates I work with, I'm sending them out for interviews, and you are of course being judged and being looked at, and they're trying to work out if you're right for the firm as well as right for the job. And if they don't know that you have ADHD, I've definitely had feedback from clients over the years that have said they didn't seem that interested, or not to say that that person had ADHD, but they didn't seem that interested. Or, you know, I do think also making eye contact is actually a thing that you are told to do. Definitely, I've always known that, you know, try and keep good eye contact in an interview. And I think it's just so interesting that you say that, because wouldn't it be nice if someone could walk into an interview or prior to an interview, drop an email and say, just so you know, I've got ADHD. So yeah, and that person could even just to know, even so that the interviewer then knows a bit more about it, so that they can sit there and not judge that and just understand the person.
Definitely, yeah. And I think that's one of the biggest challenges as well, because it's like, and I was speaking to someone about this recently, it's like, I think one of the reasons why a lot of people don't speak to employers is, firstly, you've got a fear of basically how you'll be perceived, but secondly, it's like putting the responsibility on you to basically to go first, and that can be quite anything. As I said, for me personally, as I said, I'm a bit like, I'm like, literally, I'll tell you, like, I want to tell you, like the post I wrote, I sent it to like a number of the senior partners at my law firm, like my manager and stuff, like specifically, I say before, and I said, and I actually spoke to one of the partners at my firm even before, like when I was going through the diagnosis process, before I had the official diagnosis, because again, me personally, I'm like, if I tell you about like, oh, what I did in the weekend or what I did in university, like, why wouldn't I tell you that I've got ADHD? Because it's something that's about me, but lots of people aren't like that. But then there's a massive thing with ADHD, it's called RSD, it's like rejection sensitivity dysphoria, and it's basically like where there is like a perceived sense of, even if someone isn't rejecting you, but someone said something to you or behaves in a way that comes across as rejecting, or you perceive that this, in a situation, I might be rejected, there is like a feeling as if that thing has actually, like a genuine feeling as if that thing has actually happened, even if it hasn't, or if it's completely it's common across. I haven't got the exact stats, but like a high proportion of people with ADHD experience this. It is a real like a real thing for people. So to go into an interview and feel like, you know what, I've told an interviewer that I've got ADHD before I've got the job,
it makes you feel literally like they're
not going to, because again, there's ignorance around ADHD. So for them, they might think, oh, this person's got ADHD, so they're not going to be a good candidate. I won't be able to trust them on doing things. Are we going to have to like double check every single thing they do and all of that thing? So I feel like this is where I think the education has to come from the organisation, and not put the responsibility on the candidate, because I think it's that candidate is already potentially going into a situation where you've got this fear of, okay, oh my word, if I don't make eye contact with that interviewer, regardless of saying I've got ADHD, if I don't make eye contact, are they going to think I'm not interested? Or if I'm fidgeting, are they going to think I'm distracted? Or if I'm adding more words, or like I forget something to say something, or I get stuck on, or I'm distracted by, or if the lighting in the room like isn't correct, or if I'm in person and this interview is tapping on the table and it's really distracting me, so I'm forgetting and so you're dealing with all of that stuff, and then. So to expect that person with that before even approaching the thing to basically say, oh yeah, by the way, I've got ADHD. So I feel like it's so important for the most senior individuals in these organisations and law firms to actually be genuinely educated, not just say, oh yeah, we've done a discussion about ADHD. Actually educate, what does it actually look like in practice? Because then I think people will be more confident, being so comfortable and confident in actually disclosing they've got ADHD. And then the education process continues, and then you've got individuals that have been working well for you that are going to thrive even more, because actually if they've been working to it like I said this to my friend the other day, I was like basically just saying I'm just laughing at how, patting myself on the back basically, how I've done without this knowledge and education, because now I have such a better understanding of myself and putting things in place that actually mean that I'm going to thrive even more. So essentially, it's in organisations' best interest to do this, because of course, ADHD is so common. I think since 2020, the desire interest in diagnosis, adult ADHD diagnosis, I think it went up like 200% or something, or 300%. So if you're in an organisation, the likelihood is there are multiple people in your organisation that have got ADHD, and if you are aware of this, make them feel comfortable, put things in place that actually help them to thrive, you're going to get better work out of them, and then your organisation is going to. But obviously you don't do it just because of that. You do it because actually it's like if you've got someone who needs a wheelchair and you have a ramp. And I said this to someone, it's like one of my really good friends from school, she's literally one of my closest friends, we're friends since the end of primary school and right through secondary school. Her partner's got ADHD. and he similarly had similar experiences of getting like excluded from school and things, and we're saying it's like basically saying like when with the children in the classrooms, I think it's similar. It can be likened to professionals like in the workplace with like countless people like speaking about professionals with ADHD speaking about like losing jobs or basically struggling to get jobs like because of like quality of their work or etc. And I said to my friend, it's literally like saying someone in a wheelchair basically saying, do you know what, you're failing this assessment because the assessment was for you to climb up these stairs basically, and you didn't do that, so therefore you failed. I'm like, okay, but I was never equipped like to, and you've basically given me an assessment that I'm obviously not going to be able to do because of quite clear restrictions. And I think it's the same like with ADHD. It's like I'm going to put you into like a classroom where you're expected to sit with 20 odd 30 other children where you can't control the light, you can't control the sound, you're expected to learn and listen. I'm going to speak things at you, you're expected to take it in and respond and do well and not get distracted and not get irritated by things. And if you do, okay, well, you're going to get kicked out of the classroom or excluded. And I think similarly in the workplace, you're expected to come and work into this open plan office and it's really bright and people having phone conversations and chatting and laughing and eating all of their stuff, and we're going to and you get instructions from the client. As I said, you might get clear instructions in an email, you might not, you might get a follow-up, you're not getting feedback on how you do, and you're expected to produce exactly the same work and exactly the same output as your counterparts, and it's just like, it's ridiculous. So, excuse me, I feel like that's why the education and intentional education and intentional responsibility, that's taking ownership from like senior leaders and organisations, I think is imperative because it's not going anywhere. Like people with ADHD, like so essentially what's going to happen is you're going to get people that are not going to feel seen or not going to feel equipped at work, but on the flip side, yeah, people that do feel seen and feel supported and as a result feel more invested and feel capable and more like enthusiastic about like what they're doing and not afraid of, oh my word, as I said, all of my managers like know that I've got ADHD. I've not shared like with loads of my team, but it's on my LinkedIn, so everyone's and I'm comfortable having conversations like with them about things because I've had that conversation and I've been supported in that, and genuinely supported, and I feel like that it just builds respect and builds, I think, rapport between yourselves, and ultimately, like as I said, you work better. So yeah, it's important, I think.
No, absolutely. What is the difference? I interviewed someone yesterday and they said that they had ADD.
Yeah.
Is that like a version of ADHD?
So it's the ADHD and genuinely, and I think this is university agreed, I think it is the most ridiculous and horrible, speaking about terrible names earlier, but is one of the most terrible, like attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. It's such a ridiculous name. So basically it's just the thing it's just ADHD without the hyperactivity. But,
oh right, okay.
But yeah, it's not an attention deficit because again, like one of the massive things that affects most people with ADHD, as I referenced, or lots of people with ADHD, as I referenced previously, is hyperfocus. So I can sit and if I'm enjoying something, I can literally look at it for hours on end and not stop. Mm-hmm. So it's not an attention issue. It's not an attention deficit issue. It's just about moderation essentially. So I can be doing on my phone essentially. I don't have the LinkedIn app on my phone. I don't have the YouTube app on my phone. I have to make it so I can't have certain things on my phone. Otherwise,
because you'll get lost in it.
I'll literally just spend hours and hours and hours and hours and hours and hours and hours. And I know people can do that anyway, but like it could get very, very bad. So it's not an attention issue at all. Like it's just about, I think it's an interest, and actually where at that point in time, like essentially it's linked to like dopamine and where you're getting your dopamine from, and if you're with something that's giving you like dopamine hits, then you get very, very you can continue with that. Whereas on the flip side, if you're doing like a mundane task, etc., like it's easy to get distracted because obviously that's not giving me like, and obviously I know everyone works on that, like people like checking, like you post something, oh, if you've got likes, you've got 10 likes, you've got 100 likes, etc. But with people with ADHD, it's about actually like knowing when that dopamine is done. For example, opening the packet of sweets and saying, okay, cool, I've had 20. Like often someone with ADHD, well, one of the things again, like the impulsivity, like it's like extremes. So like if I open like certain packets of sweets, if I open it, it's finished. Like there's no like, oh, well, I have 5 or I have 10 or like a pack of biscuits. Yesterday I was driving back from where was I driving to? Oh no, I had an event at my son's school. I opened a packet of biscuits and it gets finished. It's not supposed to be finished in that thing, and it's just and some people, some people might say that it's that's common with lots of people, but as I said, it's about the prevalence of these traits in various areas of an individual's life, and not just in the particular season. Actually, it's something that is prevalent and evident right throughout that person's life. So if you look at childhood, you'll see similar behaviours. If you look at their
relationship,
adolescence, you'll see similar behaviours. You look at their finances, you see similar behaviours. You look at it's
I actually interviewed a consultant for our team yesterday, and this person had what's it called with the writing?
Not dyslexia.
Dyslexia. Yeah, she was dyslexic, and she said so, and it was so refreshing to hear someone be just honest. And she said, like, yeah, I'm dyslexic, so if you want me to write a job ad, I can, but I mean it will take me 4 hours. So I was like, okay, that's fine, don't worry, I can write a job ad, or someone else in the team can write the job ad, and you can do this instead. So straight away you can find ways around things if someone's good and you want them on your team. But I think obviously that's quite, I don't know, for me that feels like quite a small thing. But even for an organisation of our size, I think that there are definitely things that can be put in place. But for the bigger organisations, obviously there's a lot, like you've said today, like changing BUPA policies. I don't know how that affects things cost-wise, but you would like to hope that there could be more.
Yeah. It's interesting. So at my firm, we've got like an ADHD, like an unofficial ADHD support group, and we've got like lawyers and that who've got ADHD. We've got support people like working like support functions, etc. And it's great. Actually, interestingly, I think there's about 15 of us or so, and I'm one of them. There's one other guy, and I think it's interesting because it doesn't mean like it's less prevalent and things, but I just feel like in the industry, I feel like in the job, or based on my personal experience, I feel like men are a lot less likely to disclose that they've got ADHD.
Yeah.
And one of the things that we discussed is like I think a lot of it comes down to ignorance. I think because I've had to go private for my did my assessment privately and treatment thereafter, and it's I think probably about a couple of grand in so far.
So you're paying for your own
treatment? And it's but I think there is like this I think incorrect feeling that you've got ADHD, it's a lifelong thing, therefore medication will be lifelong. But actually most private organisations, you get they basically do your titration, which is your medication, and they check in with you, make sure like your blood pressures are you're not having like adverse reactions to the medication, and after like 6 or 7 months, 8 months, 9 months, once you're stable, they hand you over to the NHS. And then obviously it would just be like a standard NHS prescription, so it's not like organisations would be paying for your private medication for the rest of your life, or etc. And actually, me and one of my colleagues spoke about under like BUPA certain things or acts, or certain you can get like CBT indefinitely, and she spoke about actually she was going to get be able to get like I think at an organisation she was going to be able to get like BUPA, CBT underneath her AXA, private healthcare. Like they approved her for 26 sessions of CBT, and then if she needed more after, she'd get more after, and she calculated that come towards I think like 4 or 5 grand. Whereas the ADHD medication would have been like less than £1,000. So actually, while people might feel like it's a finance issue, again, it comes down to ignorance and actually having a conversation and being educated, and then actually putting policies in place that actually aren't going to cost you anywhere near as much as you think they will, and actually will benefit your colleagues to the point where people aren't going to be annoyed saying, you know what, you won't pay for my I think it's really, ultimately comes into education. I think it has to come from the top, because if there's education and communication about things, I think people will feel more comfortable disclosing certain things. I said like lots of people in the industry wouldn't be comfortable saying to employers, I've got ADHD or XYZ, because as I said, perception. But I think if you make it seen, actually, which is why I think the legal neurodiversity network is incredible, and all of the people at the various law firms, Freshfields, Stevens, Harvard, etc., that are doing things to like spearhead the network, I think are incredible, because I think it is really for those individuals, these are people that are senior. Like I said, the panel that I'm going to be on, there's one of the individuals to the person like chairing the panel, he's a partner at Stevens and Harvard, and 2 of the other panelists are partners, and then one of them, the other individual, just myself and 4 individuals, 2 partners, a senior associate. And I think for individuals at your law firms, you're actually showing people at your firm that actually, if you're a junior associate or you're a paralegal or XYZ who's got ADHD, you know that there's a partner in your firm that's got ADHD and they're vocal about the fact they've got ADHD, so actually it gives you confidence to actually maybe share.
Speak out, yeah.
Exactly. So I feel like it's 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 really important.
Yeah.
It has to be top down. I think it can't be expected to be like, yeah.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Yeah, it's been good chatting today.
Yeah.
I'm really happy that we've been able to have this conversation and hopefully get a bit more awareness out there, just generally.
Yeah.
So thanks for your time.
Thank you for inviting me.
No worries.